that is no matter what you do. But anyway, I mean, we have learned to kind of deal with this. And sometimes it's embarrassing. I mean, forget about this thing. I mean, very more meeting with organization and all of a sudden, things start talking. And sometimes we kind of struggle to find like how we're coming from. That's what you know. So thank you all. I mean, I can thank you enough for coming all the way. Coming to Delhi is different, but this place is different because it's another 2-3 hours of travel. But colleagues that we had in the campus, still at the time that the campus was operational, so they all enjoyed. It's not a bad idea to escape from the hassling city lives to a place where you probably get to breathe a lot better quality air. I mean, I stay Delhi, I'm sure many of you are also from Delhi. So we don't know, we are like, okay, we don't know what we are doing. But it's very better. So to kickstart the event, we already have the two keynote speakers in the campus, so they will be there very soon. So I just run through few information which it's not absolutely essential, but it's good to know about what CSE is, what CSE does, what about this campus, and a little bit of what we're going to do in this event till day after tomorrow lunch, right? So my name is Adin. I think this one I have interacted almost with every one of you through emails or WhatsApp groups. So we and our entire unit, we are here to be with you, to make you stay comfortable and this event enjoyable, and should you need anything at all, just feel free to drop on the quality of us. So just to talk about CST and the Global Environment Training Institute. So it's a very brief overview of what CST is. So the gentleman in the middle of the screen is Anil who founded CST back in 1981. So CST started its journey in the 10 by 12 room in Red Kailash. Now it has a family of almost 200 people. So CST's play is currently in India and 26 different countries, mostly in the region of global south. And CST's expertise are basically kind of three-fold research. So research basically what drives us to capacity building advocacy. So what we discuss in capacity building advocacy is what basically we derive through the research. And we are recognized think tank for almost last 40 years in the climate and environmental governance ecosystem. So these are different units that are there in CSE. So I'm not going to read them. So and everything that you see right from this session till the end, we will provide soft copies with all of you. So no worries at all. But if you want to write something, if you have it, which is gradually disappearing and is getting replaced by tablets, smartphones, and laptops, right? So yeah, so basically the unit that is doing this event is solid mental service. So every CSC is dealing with one person or the other in the space of environmental governance. Every unit has a captive audience in India, in global south, and talk about it a little more. So these are more these are CSC's establishments. So we have office in Delhi, this is a main office, that's an office in the India because we have more people. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So when we ran out of space in the main office, we had to shift people, some of the program teams to the habitat office. This is where we are, ADI. I have disappeared because of quality issues, not my fault because I had to look at the and then we have the environmental monitoring laboratory. So why is it missing? So forgive for that. It's right there at the ground floor. And in fact, the funding line for those of you who are willing to go and with the which look at what we have in the lab. So it is a state of the art monitoring laboratory, environmental monitoring lab, where you can practically test anything and everything that is related to the product. Okay? So this lab is not open for commercial use. So this lab is basically what provides us with all the scientific evidence when we do research or when we release data, right? So for research, I just give you one more example, like what kind of research we do and how it impacts. During COVID, we got information that a lot of honey's are being sold in Indian market with very huge amount of adulteration sugar. These are not ordinary sugar syrup. These sugar syrups are genetically modified, manufactured in China, and then imported from China. And you would be stunned if I tell you the brands who are selling those honeys. If you name one is there, right? Starting from Power to Janu to Nature, just name it. We have a report, it's pretty much the public domain. There's no identity thing. So we partner, we have to do a kind of undercover cooperation to gain to access to practice. So when we eventually manage to collect some of those samples, we have them tested here. And we also sent one more sample in a lab in Germany, and just because the tester to regulate was to keep their identity anonymous and not disclosing the clarity. It's a very internationally recognized and credible lab. And the results were mind blowing. Okay. So the highest amount of adulteration that we found was 62%. So if you're buying 1 kilo of honey, you're actually buying 380 grams of it. The remaining 620 grams are nothing but genetically modified. Now, why genetically modified? Why do they manufacture in China? Because China is aware of Indian food safety standard, which is governed by FSSAI, the Food Safety and Standard Authority, right? So they know the parameters that FSSAI used to follow back then.
So genetically modified or synthetically manufactured?
I'm sorry, sir, come again.
Genetically modified or synthetically manufactured?
Yeah, that would be also the alternative word. And I'm not going to qualify to forgive me for if I say anything which is scientifically not correct. So, when this research, this report was released, so we did a proper kind of press release and we addressed the media when the results were disclosed, the report was published. So when Mr. is here, we should like to talk about it. And the result of this, the standard itself was changed. Right? So we have a new parameter which would detect the presence of this chemicals or syrup over the body. Right? So we started something which one of the lives, especially people who are suffering from diabetes, they were having lots of honey because it's a natural immunity booster, right? So after the standard was changed, it will not be saved a lot of lives as well. So that is basically one example that I felt like I should share with you. A little bit about the risk work that we do in India. We also have a kind of global chapter, a global one, and talk about that in a minute. So the first part of is part of CSC is a partner in the India Norway bilateral agreement for reducing malaria. Now our part of project or our part of program is to address the land to sea partners. We are not working the coast, right, or coastal settlements. And this is why we thought, and we had a lot of discussions with people in the university who are supporting our program, as well as many stakeholders that apart from addressing the latency pathway, we also need to look at the downstream because even if waste is getting even in the upstream, it's starting all over again. Even if it's a lot of so we have there are also people that is travel by that is carried as a woman what is also being traffic to the mouth of the ocean, right? So these are the snapshots. So of course anyone is a project is capacity building in the zone because it's quite established. This is a moment that capacity building always enables institutions to take right decision, right? So that was the whole premise. So we have 427 cities, 32 states and cities. We had colleagues from private companies, startups, consulting space academia. We also have two subsets of our India program, which is to deal with the Himalayan states, both in the northeast and the north, as well as the coastal states. So that's coastal, dealing with coastal states is one subset, another subset of our program, which of late we started back in 2022, right? Can we process more, please? And then there are two aspirational cities as part of this program, so we didn't really have much of a choice to kind of select them. So they were pretty much, it is pretty much government decision. So the chief secretaries of all the states can nominate these cities. But so that's a different mode of engagement, relatively new value compared to the cities where we are still providing capacity support. And then we are particularly interested as a center for excellence in as many as these cities are because of the space, so environment forest, housing, urban affairs, Jal Shakti, chemical fertilizer, agriculture, farmer welfare, petroleum, natural gas, new renewable energy, rural development, Jatira, low-cost highway area. So, and last but not the least, the research part. So, in very our research, mostly forward of say behavior change, silent value change, present technology, and last but not the least, outside analysis, because this is occupying a huge space, at least after the SPM phase 2 was launched in 2021. So this is basically our footprint in the global south. So currently we are working in as many as 19 countries, 15 of them are African, 4 are Asian. The mode of engagement is pretty much similar, but of course we don't have offices in these countries. So the engagement is a hybrid of physical events plus support to virtual. Okay? So we'll talk about these as well later on. Down to earth, many of you may be familiar with this name. So when I was kind of a young professional, just finished my studies. So somebody told me to go down to earth, so I started following it because I was very into the watch data. Because auditors management was not in the priority of in the policy or practice. So probably between 2010 and 12, or just when the total sanitation campaign was renamed as per permission, back in 2014, when we had a change of in the political leadership at government of India level. So that from that time onward, solid waste management started getting traction as compared to the situation before, right? So it's a fortnightly published environmental magazine journal, whatever you call it. I don't know. I don't think journal will be an appropriate word here. So it's published in India and English, and every 15 days, one volume goes out. You probably have found the latest copy in your kit. And we also produce one annual edition of Down to Earth, which is called the State of India's Environment. So we had our own environment minister right here in this campus to release the annual edition, along with my director, who will join us shortly. So about this campus, this is basically a campus where we walk at all. I mean, you might wonder like how this very was organized in Delhi. It could have been all there in Delhi. But what we don't is really the campus and what we have inside it, right? So this campus basically hosts both national and international participants almost throughout the year, regardless of which time or which week you visit this campus. You will always see at least 2 training programs are basically happening by the different programs which are like here right at the beginning of this research. So these are some of the issues that you would like to see in the campus. Not only like thermal comfort, cooling meeting, black water, grey water, groundwater, compost plant, biogas, solar power, plastic, etc., etc. So when we take you for a campus walk around, I hope we will at least be able to showcase most of them. Now, let me just give you an overview of the whole premise of this cloud to manage solid waste sustainably. Now we have started using waste to well, business around waste, right? A lot of startups are being encouraged. They are being incubated for investing in the waste sector, right? So if I give you the overview of what is the mandate under this flagship Swachh Bharat mission, it's one of its kind in the whole world, where more than 17 billion, like close to 150,000 crore, is the Union budget allocation officially for a period of 5 years between 2021 to 2026, right? So the first mandate is to get rid of the man-made garbage mountain and reclaim the land. Simple, right? but it's super duper expensive. How much expensive? For every gram of rice, you are spending around 800 rupees to 1200, depending on whether it's skill or length, or whether you're lucky to get a concession on board who are happy to take the responsibility of the waste itself after the mountain is cut, right? Which is where the citizens are struggling. People are saying that, okay, I'm happy to come, I'll cut down your mountain, flatten the land, and down everything wherever I get a space. But I'm not going to be with you. Okay? Anyway, that's a different discussion altogether. The second is that now the cities or the local governments are being told that you need to quantify your generation now. You need to quantify your generation, the projected generation for maybe next 10, 15 years, and then you augment your equipment and processing so that while we invest on cutting the existing garbage mountain, because making another mountain that takes away by dumping the pressures. So, and then there's a program mandate, which is to divert as 80% of waste from carbon dioxide by 2026. Now, the good news this time in SBM2, they have included a mechanism which you can call like performance linked disbursement. So there are milestones which the local governments need to achieve before they actually claim the next installment from government. So this particularly or 1,50,000 is what they are calling additional central assistance under this package program, which is over and above the regular government allocation to the local governments. Finance Commission, Federal Finance Commission, and other flagship programs like Smart City, Amrut, NFCT, etc. etc. Technology. Now, if I talk about the objectives of this event in this broad point, so we are here. This is the second event, by the way. We had the first event back in February last year, and I can see many faces who were there in that event as well. So we need to understand the sources and the extent of malaria and how it is impacting the environment. Unfortunately, when we started researching into this agenda, we started getting a lot of data. There was hardly any data that we could we could collect, analyze, and even try and extrapolate to see a pan-India picture or any regional picture for. Second is understanding the policy ecosystem, strategies, system development, institutional arrangement. Wherever it is scope to deal with malaria as an agenda. And then third thing is definitely devising strategies to deal with malaria to reduce the upstream, midstream, and downstream sources. Right? So in this event, as soon as our keynote speakers are here and they address us, we will table a draft strategy paper. So as soon as it is officially kind of released by them, we'll distribute the copies to all of you. And for the next 3 days, apart from the discussions and the learning that we are expecting from all of you, we are also looking for revising the draft paper because we are not going to release the draft paper as a public for people to see. It's like a closed review of the draft paper, right? Then once the event is over and we get all the inputs in addition to what is already there, then we will revise it and then we will put it in the public domain and then we also start using it as an advocacy instrument to engage with all the key decision makers and government. Now, housekeeping. This remaining 4 in these are not that important. You can read them. The first one is basically what we always maintain in a campus that we should keep our phone silent, number one, and we shouldn't take or make calls inside the room. So So I understand we all know holding important positions in our organizations. We will have to take call or make call with this urgent. So please stay outside, take the call or make the call, and then come back inside. Right? Last we break, everything is detailed in the agenda. Campus is absolutely secure, but there is hardly any human settlement around. So don't leave the campus. In fact, you can't leave the campus without a gate pass which is issued by the institution itself. It's for your safety. If you want to leave the campus, you either go in the morning, don't go alone, go in the group, or early evening before it's completely dark. Okay, there are few good places, including some temples and some check dams down. Soft copies, everything will be shared. Everything, right? From now till the last session, whatever you see, whatever you read, everything you will get in a soft copy in a Google Drive folder. You can download it all in one go. And then we have gyms, playroom, table tennis, train, food festival. So we will not stop your friends with all ways and then merit the place. So we have some fun elements as well so that we can get rid of all those ways in the evening. So we will start today. So there's an amphitheater right on the left of the cafeteria. I mean, many of you have visited our campus in the past, so you guys are very well aware. So we will meet there in the evening. Today there's a party with some Rajasthani delicacy. They will only cook with absolute health and hygiene standards, so no worries on that. But that's not all. You still have to have dinner, so don't start your stomach with all those things, right? Now I'm done with this. Now we just do a very quick round of introduction with everyone. So when you introduce yourself, you can restrict the introduction to name, designation, organization, city or state that you're coming from. So can we start from this side or this side? Can we have microphones? Is it working?
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone.
Yeah.
My name is Saida.
Corporation, senior officer, dealing with foreign distribution.
Just can you please count that and address everyone? So and just close it, hold it close to your mouth so that you are aware enough.
J. Rambabu, designation Ward Sanitation Secretary, city in Rajmahendravaram, Andhra Pradesh.
Rajamahendravaram. So it's another name of Rajamundry, right?
Thank you.
All right.
Good morning to all, sir. I am Mahesh from Rajahmundry Corporation, Andhra Pradesh State Government. I am working as a Ward Sanitation and Environmental Secretary, and I am responsible for door-to-door collection and bulk generators management and source segregation to households. So thanks.
Thank you. Please pass it on.
Good morning, everybody. I am Raghunath Reddy from Andhra Pradesh. I work for AP Urban, and I'm a technical advisor to Swachandra Corporation, which is a nodal agency to Swachh Bharat Mission. I take care of used water management, solid waste, and biomining in the state of Andhra Pradesh.
Morning, I'm Manel Zakaria. I work at the French Embassy. I am in secondment at the NIOT, National Institute of Ocean Technology in Chennai, as an international expert in blue economy in charge of cooperation between India and France.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Good day. I am Prabhakar Mishra, right now working as a scientist G at the National Center for Coastal Research. We are placed at National Institute of Ocean Technology, same campus. And I am the focal point for the marine leader program of my ministry, that is Ministry of Earth Sciences. So we do a lot of work on quantification of basically the liter microplastics, what is entering to the different environment. And let us see how things will go. So we are also making the policy paper for the ministry. I hope this we can work together hereafter.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes, good morning to all. Myself, Subhasis Mohanty from Bhubaneswar Municipal Corporation, Odisha. I am working in the field of solid and liquid waste management.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good morning to all. I am AB Varghese, Kerala State Pollution Control Board.
working as the regional officer and environmental engineer of Idiki district in Kerala state.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good morning to all. I'm Sagar, Junior Engineer, Uragara Municipality, Puducherry, dealing with solid waste management.
Good morning. I am Jay Sankar, Municipal Health Officer, Uragara Municipality, Puducherry.
Good morning, everybody. Myself, Prasun Kanti Das from West Bengal. Our organization name is Amra Sushama Jaraprabha in West Bengal.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Adil. I work as a researcher at Council on Energy, Environment and Water. CEW is based out of Delhi, and I work in the clean air team, and I look at the intersection of air pollution and waste management.
Hi everyone, I'm Srishti Mishra. I'm from Council on Energy, Environment and Water, and I'm from New Delhi. Thank you. Here to learn from you all.
Good morning all. I'm Shabani Rajchaudhary from SciCom Project Consultant Limited, working as a senior expert over there and having more than 15 years of experience in solid waste management sector. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Sujit Dongre. I work with the Center for Environment Education as a program director. I'm looking after coastal and marine program of the center. Along with, I'm also a director of Goa Waste Management Corporation, which is the special purpose vehicle created by the government of Goa.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Captain Jayakumar, former nautical advisor to Government of India under the Ministry of Port Shipping and Waterways. I'm here to learn from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Hi, good morning. I am Mariam. I work with an organization called Andaman Conservancy Foundation, where we look at environmental conservation by finding social equity for the islander communities of the Andaman archipelago. Thank you.
Thanks, Mariam.
I'm Vinita Hoon. I work with the Center for Action Research on Environment, Science and Society. And the work mainly deals with islands and coastal areas, mainly where coral reefs are. So I work on socioeconomic monitoring, marine litter, and islands.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good morning, all. Myself, Mohammad Naushad. I'm from Lakshadweep. My organization is Reef Research and Environmental Education Foundation. I'm a marine biologist. Thank you.
Can you pass it on, Naushad? Yeah, thank you.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Archana Tripathi. I'm the CEO of NGO Sahas. Sahas works with a lot of urban local bodies and rural local bodies, supporting them in strengthening their solid waste management systems. So happy to learn from all of you and share some of our experiences. Thanks.
Thank you, Archana.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gungun. I'm an urban planner. I work with IP Global, which is a development consulting organization. I'm working on an in-replace project of USAID, which is innovations for reducing plastic waste for a cleaner environment in India. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Dinesh. I lead sustainability innovations with an organization called Recycle, and I'm working mostly on DRS, a new system in India, depository fund system.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sonia Hanam, and I work in USAID, US Embassy, as a project management specialist environment. I look after the environment part of General Development Office and provide technical assistance and programmatic expertise to the mission. In my role as a project management specialist, I look after the pollution mitigation part of environment. And currently, like Gungun said, we have a plastic program called in Replace for 5 years, which is about $30 million US. So yeah, IP Global is one of the implementing partner of the program. Okay. So I'm so glad that I'm back to my old organization. I used to work in CSC along with Dinesh in the same team.
Yeah.
And had the chance to work with Atin as well. Yeah, and happy to learn from all of you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's a small world. No matter where you go, you always come back.
Hi, everybody. Garima this side. I'm the founder of the Kachrewale Foundation. We started working in the Andamans about 5 years ago. We've been working extensively on solid waste management and marine litter. Last 2 years, we've been doing some big programs which are focusing on understanding where marine litter is coming from. And for us, it's also a very sea to land kind of a chain, and happy to be here to learn and to share.
Thank you.
Good morning to all. I'm Jairam, coming from Hand in Hand India NGO. I'm working with SWM Builder from Kanjipuram, Tamil Nadu.
So we are also going live in all social media platforms. So please hold the mic closer to your mouth so that you are audible on the other side. So we are joined by several hundreds of colleagues virtually. Yeah, please.
Good morning to all. I am Ermalai. I am coming from Hand in India, Tamil Nadu. I am working as a Assistant General Manager, Solid Waste Management Project.
Hello all, I'm Deepa. I represent an organization called Sustera Foundation. It's an NPO working in the domain of climate action and sustainable development. Our main focus is youth capacity building and community engagement. Looking to so much of learnings from all of you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gauri Ganesh, and I'm a project manager, and I work for Plastic Fisher. Plastic Fisher is a social enterprise that deals with marine plastic pollution by collecting river plastic. So I handle the project operations at Trivandrum. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Tanya. I am also from Plastic Fisher. I look after B2G, B2B partnerships and PPPs for Plastic Fisher. As Gauri mentioned, we are into collecting riverine plastic waste, and we also handle end-to-end projects. We have 4 sites. We have 2 sites along the Ganga, which is in Kanpur and Varanasi, and 2 down south, which is in Trivandrum and Mangalore. And also, in addition to that, I work as an individual contributor in grassroots waste management projects in Himachal Pradesh. Thank you. Looking forward to getting to know you. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Stella. I am an independent environmental law researcher. I work with environmental NGOs, supporting legal research, advocacy, policy research, those kinds of things. And I'm also co-teaching a course on conservation law and policy at the National Center for Biological Sciences. I'm from Bangalore.
Hi, I'm Naina. I'm from an organization called Dakshin Foundation, which works on marine and coastal ecosystems. From a point of view of engaging with communities closely for the same and ensuring justice and equity for communities. And we have a small project on plastics that we do a little bit of work on that, and I'm happy to share what we know of that and learn from all of you.
Good morning. I'm Raghuraman. I'm Joint Director, Department of Urban Affairs, Government of Kerala. And also I'm the Secretary of GIDA, which is Gosri Islands Development Authority, which is a small archipelago of 19 islands, and which is also the densest island group in Asia. And I'm here because I'm connected with island and coastal area management, and I'm also doing my PhD on the same topic. So looking forward to learn new things and share my experience. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Sonia Garg, and I'm from Sahas, based out of Gurgaon. As mentioned, Sahas, we do work with all the government departments, bodies to address solid waste management from circular point of view, circular economy point of view. Really looking forward to these 3 days of interaction and learning from all of you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Shahzad Balsara. I am a project head at Sanjeevani S3 Mumbai. So we focus mainly on IEC activities. We run certificate courses on composting, waste recycling, and sustainability in colleges across Mumbai. At the same time, we provide turnkey solutions for all solid waste management problems. Thanks.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Myself, Sneha from Karnataka State. I'm working in Udupi City Municipal Council as an environmental engineer. I'm dealing with the solid waste management of the city. Thank you.
I am Ravi Kumar, Uttar Kannada, Karwar, Karnataka. I am an executive engineer. Basically, I am a civil engineer. I seen wastewater treatment and solid waste management.
Good morning to everyone. I am Uday Shetty, Project Director, District Urban Development Cell, Dakshin Kannada District, Mangalore of Karnataka State. I came to here, learn few things and implement the same in our urban local bodies. Thank you.
Very good morning, all. I'm Saurabh Banuja. I work as a technical advisor in waste management at GIZ. supporting cities combating plastic entering marine environment project.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Sanjay K. Gupta. I have over 2 decades of experience in waste management. What started as a hobby and volunteer work with a student stayed with me as a professional as well. And I work with 3 different organizations. One is Resource and Waste Advisory Group with GIZ. The other is with GOPA, and the third is Swiss Red Cross. And mostly for the last 7-8 years of working on the marine litter. So we'll be happy to learn new perspective and see what output this workshop gives me. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. S. Chandrasekharan. I'm working in Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board as Assistant Environment Engineer. I'm looking after plastic waste management and coastal marine litters thing. Earlier also I've worked in the solid waste management section.
A very good morning to one and all. I'm Soundarya and I'm working as an environmental scientist and the Tamil Nadu Pollution Control Board. So I'm looking after the plastic waste management section and also the biomedical waste management section. So I'm looking forward to learn a lot, get more inputs from this workshop. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ajay Kumar. I am worked as Junior Health Inspector, Health Supervisor. Now I am worked in a Clean City Manager. I am coming from Trivandrum Corporation, Government of Kerala.
Hi, I'm Dr. Gopakumar, Public Health Officer, Thiruvananthapuram Municipal Corporation. I look after both public health and sanitation, including environment, and associated with GIZ and Plastic Fisher, taking care of the environmental matters and along with all the public health and sanitation of Thiruvananthapuram Municipal Corporation.
Hi, this is Rahul Reddy. I'm from Andhra Pradesh. I'm working in AP Urban. At present, I'm working on biomining project.
Good morning to everyone. My name is Maishwar Reddy from Andhra Pradesh, working on solid and liquid waste management. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mo. I work with CSE in the Solid Waste Management Program. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Meenakshi and I work with the Solid Waste team at the Center for Science and Environment.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Myself, Kuldeep. I work with the Municipal Solid Waste team. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, so I'm sure all of you know Kuldeep because he's the reason you're here today. And I'm Siddharth. Probably not all of you know me, but I did speak to a lot of you before, onboarding you for this very important event. I primarily work in the plastics, and now we are also kind of exploring marine litter because there's a very big connect that we have. So yeah, over to you, I think.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for keeping it brief. Now we have our keynote speakers on the stage. And before I invite them to speak, and both of them need no introduction, but it's just a formality, just going with the norms of the event. So let me introduce, with a lot of respect, Sri Atul Bagai sir. So, and let me just introduce him very briefly to you. So, see, Atul Bagai is an IS officer of 1983 batch who served the government of India for 17 years and held several positions as Chief of Staff at the Ministry of Finance and Ministry of External Affairs and to a Chief Minister at the provincial level. Mr. Bagai holds a postgraduate degree in history from St. Stephen's College, University of Delhi. As an UN veteran, Sri Bagai has worked at UNEP for over 22 years and currently heading UNEP's country office in India. After UNEP established its footprint in India in 2016, he has decisively led from the front to fulfill its mandate across climate change, chemicals, waste and air quality, healthy and productive ecosystem, resilience to disaster and conflicts, environmental governance, resource efficiency, and environment under review. Over the recent year, he has led UNEP's engagement with the Indian government on land degradation, desertification, and drought and on generating momentum on the UN Decade of Ecosystem Restoration. Previously at UNEP, he served as Senior Regional Coordinator to build capacities of sub-regional networks in Asia in meeting compliance targets under the Montreal Protocol. In this capacity, he led innovative initiatives, including on green procurement policies, phasing out of ozone-depleting substances, and developing synergies between ozone and climate change. Thank you so much, Bagai sir, for coming over here. Let me now introduce the next keynote speaker, Sunita ji. She needs no introduction. I'll keep it short. I'll keep it short, ma'am. I know you always have problem getting introduced while you are here. So Sunita ji started her journey with CSE when CSE was formed back in 1982. She is a global environmentalist and writer. She has 4 decades of experience in research, advocacy, and capacity building. She has played pivotal role in building public opinion in the challenges and solution for environment, particularly in the countries of Global South. She has combined science-based evidence and solutions with a pro-poor perspective to mainstream environmental concern in public policy and society. She is the one who believed environment and development are 2 sides of the same coin, and that sustainable development is not possible without inclusive and equitable growth. She has lots of accolades, to name a few: Padma Shri, Stockholm Water Prize, Prince Albert Foundation Award. Times Magazine featured her as one of the 100 most influential people in the world. The Order of the Polo Star awarded by the Swedish government, and very recently she has also been awarded with the Edinburgh Medal. She has authored many books. These are some iconics, and the biggest one that you can see on the right of the screen is the book that marks the journey of the WASTE program in CSE. So on that note, I welcome both of you, and if I may kindly invite Bagai sir to address the participant, please.
It was a big live stream, and I was given instructions that we would have today.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. I think in my introduction, one very important fact was not mentioned about my background. And probably Sunita ji also doesn't know about it, that apart from whatever has been said, I'm also a very big fan of CSE. I think that's, and Sunita ji, when CSE was founded, I had just entered my post-graduation and in Delhi University. And before that, I used to avidly read the articles which Anil ji used to write in Hindustan Times, because that was a newspaper that used to come to our house. And I was really enamored by this personality. I was also preparing for my civil services around that time. And while in school also, one had that vision to get in. And actually, that was my first initiation into the field of environment. And I was amazed with this enigmatic personality. And when I joined college, of course, the CSE was set up and you joined a few years later there. And you had been a constant source of inspiration for me throughout my civil services career. Because as bureaucrats, we normally do not get into that space of sustainability for a variety of reasons and the way governments work and the administrations work. But I think that whole initiation that took place since 1980 and through the various articles, and his very first big real revelation was the Chipko movement, which also inspired me so much that during my Bharat Darshan, I chose specifically Siliara village to spend 3 weeks there, and Tilonia to spend 3 weeks there also. And also his very first citizen report that came out was something which was so unique and so different from what was happening in that space in the 1980s and 90s of India, or even globally, meaning I think at a global level. So I think that part of my biodata has not been said, and I'm so very happy today and humbled to be here. And Sunita ji has been after me for last 1 year that I need to come here. And I'm very thankful that you've given me this honor and opportunity to be here. I am also very, very nervous when Sunita ji is around in terms of, meaning one has listened to her talks and to interviews and to articles one has read, and one knows how little one really knows about the environment compared to what she has done. But I'll just try to highlight a few points in regard to the topic for which you are here for 3 days. And I think it's a very innovative idea, Sunita ji, to have this coalition of cities, coastal cities, for a variety of reasons, which are very well elucidated in the background papers. But I think no environmental issue can be sorted out unless there is a partnership. And this coalition signifies a unique partnership amongst the coastal states. But I would also say that as a next step, since marine litter is also a land-based issue, I think it will be useful to broaden and scale up this coalition for the entire country. And this is something because since it's a land-based problem, we need to address that part as part of this coalition. The second point I wanted to highlight is why this coalition is so important. We have a similar experience with air pollution issues, where we set up on the request of the government air pollution quality platform and a forum. And we now have about 140 organizations who are members of that, and CSE is one of them. And we've realized in the last 1.5 years of operations that there's no better way to move forward than through a dialogue, through consultations, and through learning from each other. And all these three aspects are inherent in the 3-day workshop and the whole approach that this strategy paper you're working on is taking. A third point I wanted to highlight was, and this is something that UNEP has been propagating, and Sunita ji has really worked on the ground on these issues, is that the 3 crises we are facing of nature, of pollution, and of climate are not isolated crises. These are all very closely interlinked. And the tragedy has been over the past many decades is that we have started looking at these crises as individual siloized crises. And the good news is that now it is scientifically proven also that any mitigation effort in either of these 3 crises will have a co-benefit of impacting on the other 2 crises. So when we're talking about marine litter and marine pollution, and we are bringing in solutions, and there are some very nice solutions that have been suggested in the strategy paper and also in the background document, we are also benefiting climate and nature. And I think that's a very important consideration, which it's so sad that the governments and the international organizations have still not grasped. Meaning, if I talk of UN, it's so rare that UNEP talks to FAO or to UNFCCC or to an organization, UNCCD. There may be some dialogues going on, but unless we coordinate our efforts, we won't be able to get a bang for a buck. That was a point I wanted to highlight, that this coalition, while has gotten city administrators and pollution control boards, could be scaled up to bring in some of the other stakeholders who handle climate change and nature at a state level. And that would be a very big value addition to this coalition. UNEP is working very closely with CSE as part of the Norway Marine Litter Initiative. And we've worked closely over the last 3 years on a lot of scientific work that has been done on research. We also worked under a Japanese project of countermeasures. And I think India really took the lead when it was announced in 2018 that single-use plastic has to be banned. while that announcement was very welcome at a global level, also many countries followed India's initiative. I think one of the biggest drawbacks to this whole experience was that while cities, while countries, states grabbed this opportunity to ban single-use plastics or bring in EPRs, a lot of policy came in. But I think the biggest drawback was that the enforcement was very, very weak. And we today, even after 6-7 years of single-use plastic have been banned, if we just walk down to the Alwar town, which is not very far away, you will find that single-use plastic is all over. A variety of reasons why it is happening, but I think enforcement is one of the reasons. But I also think that environmental mitigation is just not a part of policy or enforcement alone. A very big element of environmental mitigation is our individual mindset. And I think that is something which individuals like you and us, all of who are present here and all those outside, need to start thinking about nature, need to start thinking about what if I do this, how will it impact on environment? And that's something that we just don't do. A lot of efforts are made on capacity building. A lot of efforts are made on awareness, technical support. But I think that is not having the kind of impact it should have. I'm not saying that the mindsets haven't changed over the last 20 years or 30 years amongst, let's say, India. We're talking of India right now. Meaning, I know of a lot of examples which are happening where individual action is really spearheading the action on environment. I know of groups of youngsters who don't buy new clothes and share their clothes with each other just to minimize their carbon footprint. Small initiatives like this are happening all over the country, but I think we really need to scale them up at a pan-India level and, of course, at a global level. And I also came here to listen to Sunita ji, so I won't talk longer because I need to learn a lot from her. But I just want to end by quoting something I normally do on the mindset, that it's in our culture, it's in our tradition that we respect our guests. It's part of our tradition, and we are in Rajasthan, where hospitality and treating guests as gods is part of their culture, part of the psyche. And this Atithi Devo Bhav is a signal for our whole culture and a tradition. And I think while we are moving on, if we can start in our mindset, in our minds, in our psyche, another concept of Prakriti Devo Bhav, that is something that will really change that mindset, that we treat God, nature as God. And I think we need to adopt that. Otherwise, whatever actions we take or industry takes or government takes will not bear fruit. And I'll end up with an example I normally give of one of our champions of earth, and Sunita ji knows him also very well, Afroz Shah. He got a Champions of the Earth, which is the highest UN award on environment, in 2018. And he lives in Warsaw in an apartment and has a beautiful view of the beach and the sea. And he, 6-7 years, realized that the beach was becoming so dirty because of this whole marine litter issue that he needed to do something. And he didn't wait for the government or the Bombay Municipal Corporation to come and clean up the beach. He said, no, I'll do it. I'll do it on my own. I'll mobilize people. And he did that, and he is done such amazing work there. So as individuals, I think we need to do our bit. Governments are there, industry is there to do their bit. But as individuals also, we need to realize our responsibilities and start working on whatever little we can do around our own environment. Sunita ji, I'm very grateful. I'm very humbled to be here today. And in whatever way we can support, I'm retiring on 31st March. So I can be your bag holder after that. Would love to be associated. Thank you. Thank you. Ma'am, to close.
I'm still in the frame. Okay. I was given all sorts of instructions about how it's being live streamed and people should not move around too much. So firstly, as I welcome all of you to our campus, thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for making the trip, which is, I know at this point between air travel being so disrupted and the fog and the smog, everything. But thank you very much. And I hope these next 3 days, the way we have designed it, and it's really Atin and Siddharth and the team which has put this together, the aim is to bring all of us together. And as Atulji said so clearly, that it's partnerships, it's discussions, it's dialogue. And the best thing about this facility is that we are all in it together. And there's a lot of time to be able to learn from each other, share experiences, and that's the best thing about it. So thank you so much for coming. And thank you, Atulji. Thank you, Atul, for coming. And thank you for all your support, your friendship over the years, your support and your encouragement. Even when we knew that you were in Nairobi, you were always there. So thank you so much for being there. And as you have said, post-March, I hope we can talk over lunch today about all the things that we can do together. Because the issue of environment, and both Atul and I go back to that era when environment wasn't even an issue. I mean, when you began work in UNEP, I'm sure people asked you, where are you going? UNEP was not even known. When I started work in the environment, people used to talk about, are you going to go and work in the field of weather? In fact, that's probably accurate because given climate change today, it's weather that is the worst impacted. And today we know the impact of the weather on the poorest in our world. But the field of environment has really in India been very different. And I think that's something we need to also understand. As we move ahead and we build a new alliance, a new coalition, and we take on work to handle, which is clearly an issue of partnership, a partnership between the land and the sea. We need to understand the history of the environmental movement for a minute. The environmental movement started, as Atul said very clearly, with the Chipko movement in India. But the Chipko movement in India was not a movement to conserve the trees. It was not a movement to stop the felling of trees. It was a movement of self-determination. It was a movement of poor women saying that trees are our survival, and therefore the trees should not be cut. In that sense, the environmental movement of India has had a very different footprint from the Western environmental movement. The Western environmental movement began after industrialization, after toxification of the environment, and they were filled, their rivers were filled with toxins. They had huge amount of plastic all around. They had everything that we have today in the air. It was a result of the industrial growth. And so the entire movement was about combating and combating pollution. In the fight against pollution, it was a very technocratic view. So you ended up with cleaning pollution by putting huge amount of investment into it. And what you did not understand is that that pollution did not really go away. It reinvented itself in another way. But the economics of pollution control were that you were constantly investing in pollution control. And so in the Western environmental movement, pollution and pollution control became another part of the business. It was part of economic growth. Because the more you polluted, the more the business came up. and the more you would end up with cost of cleaning and therefore another problem of environment. Let me give you an example just to illustrate it because it sounds very... So take air pollution. Take the issue of vehicles. What you ended up with doing was to clean up the air in cities, you brought in cleaner fuel. You brought in cleaner technology for vehicles. So you dealt with one pollutant, which is in this case PM, particulate matter. But as the particulate matter you sorted out, you had another pollutant on your hand, which is that the particulate matter became smaller and tinier, and now would go through your nose, which is PM10. As you improved the fuel quality to deal with PM10, you had another pollutant, which is NOx. Because as you increase the temperature to reduce the PM, you increase the NOx. So I could go on and on and on, but just to illustrate that each one of it became another economic opportunity. The problem with that model, and that's really where we come to today, the problem with that model is that it has limits. And it has certain planetary limits that we are not able to handle. So when it came to the same question about local air pollution that I spoke about, you cleaned up the air of your city, but you ended up with emitting carbon dioxide, which today is threatening us all because of climate change. You ended up with coming up with a model in which you had huge amount of waste, and your waste ended up with either in landfills or being exported out, or somewhere it went, and you thought that it had you had dealt with it, till it ended up in our oceans. And that's where the plastic issue has become so important once again. That it's a problem that we thought that we had got rid of. We thought that we had got rid of and cleaned up our local air pollution because our air is definitely cleaner than New Delhi, but we did not realize that that same vehicle, which is now cleaner because it doesn't have such high emissions for local air pollution, it still has emissions which are jeopardizing climate change. You thought that you had cleaned up because you had got rid of the plastics. They were not visible. You don't go into any Western city and see the site that you see in Alwar, Atul. But the problem has not gone away because we have learned that in the human being, and this is really mankind, and I'm particularly calling it mankind and not humankind, not womankind, it is mankind's desire to innovate and to find products which cannot be destroyed. So you had the problem of CFC, the ozone layer, a product which actually got a Nobel Prize. You had DDT, another product which was a persistent organochlorine, persistent. And so it ended up with having such a long life that it destroyed the eagles of our world. Or climate change because of carbon dioxide, or now plastic. All products which we have designed so that they have a long life, they are indestructible, and today they are creating such huge problems in the entire world. Now that's, in a sense, the environmental movement as it has evolved. In our part of the world, we are at a cusp. The question for us is, which is the direction of the environmental movement that we will choose? We started off with the Chipko movement, in which the women were really not talking about trees, they were talking about development. They were talking about the right to self-determination. For them, the issue was, how could you do a development in the Himalayas which would be tree-based, wood-based, but would protect their livelihood? We really have not figured that out as yet. In fact, the Himalayas today are the world's most vulnerable region, including our most vulnerable region. And we can see the disasters that are happening there in front of our eyes, just because we haven't understood how to do that development in a way that it is benign to the hills, good for the people, and yet it is development. Nobody is saying we do not need development. We need power, we need electricity, we need education, we need livelihoods, we need economy, we need industry. But how do we do that? Not at the cost of the environment. That is the question for us. Now, the movement today and the question for us today is, can we adopt the Western environmental method in which you first pollute and then clean up? It comes at a huge cost. It comes at such a huge cost that they outsourced all that pollution to China. If you look at it, the key reason for the World Trade Organization and the WTO and the agreement that came up, and Atul will clearly remember that this was a time when we were all discussing in Rio the question of climate, which was bringing the world together. The world was also coming together to craft a trade treaty. But the trade treaty was designed for free trade, and the logic of it was that it would make the production of goods much cheaper. Perfect logic. But what was the reason for it to be cheap was because it would be exported to countries which would not pay the cost of environment or labor. Today, that entire globalization is being reversed because China is controlling all the rare minerals as well as the technologies for the new economy, for the green economy. Today, there is a shift to go back, but let's not even go to that. The point is, the method for environmental management was one in which you first polluted and then you invested in cleaning up. We don't have that option. We don't have the money to first pollute and then clean up. And this is really where India's waste issue, the issue of the partnership between the land and the sea, will become so critical. Because if we continue on a strategy in which we keep producing and we think that we can clean up, we will never be able to do so. So we have two options that we need to discuss and that we need to practice. When we did our book, Not in My Backyard, what we learned very clearly, and that experience has grown in this country, is that we are too poor a country to waste. We cannot afford to put land for waste. We do not have that option. Many of you are from Kerala. One of the stories that one of my biggest learning on waste came from Kerala when I visited, and I found that the city of Thiruvananthapuram did not have a place to send its waste to because the women in the village outside Thiruvananthapuram had protested to say, "We will not let your waste come here." Which meant that the capital of Kerala had to reinvent its waste management strategies. You had to deal with waste because you had no option. Now, this is really the waste story for us. How do you make sure that waste is not waste? How do you make sure that you segregate at the household level? You make sure that you can treat your wet waste so that you can compost it, you can biomethane it, you can make CNG out of it, but you value add to that waste. You look at it deliberately to say, what can I do to use it, utilize it, so that it does not remain as waste? Because we cannot afford to waste and then clean up. The issue of dry waste, and that, Atul, is something that we haven't been able to sort yet. The issue of dry waste has to be based on 3 principles. Now, these are tough. There is no question about it. And I think the entire effort, and, governments have to take a middle path often, but the entire effort to treat the issue of plastic as if it's a problem that will go away somehow is not going to work. The listing of the single-use plastic that we have done in India is completely inadequate, completely inadequate. CSE is one group that has pointed out that most of the products that have been defined as single-use plastic are made in the small-scale sector, which means it is even harder for us to control whether it is made or not made. The biggest issue of the pouches that are non-recyclable has been left out. The issue of multi-layered plastic has been left out. The issue, most importantly, in my view, of the carry bags and the microns that we are trying to measure it with is just not workable. So the first principle has to be, let's minimize what cannot. Let us, in fact, not even minimize. Now I'm being polite about it. Let me tell you as it is. Let's ban, let's restrict, let's not allow the use of what cannot be recyclable. If you go to Tanzania, which we did recently, it's amazing. Their ban on carry bags is absolute. They don't have a micron check or anything. They've banned it. And you cannot see plastic pollution anywhere in Dar or Mavanza or even in Lake Victoria when we went. Many countries are learning that you just have to be far more harsher because, as I said, we will have to adopt a different route. Number one, that. Number two, we will have to look at the plastic issue in terms of who recycles. The definition of recycling will have to be understood a little more. And we will need to incentivize the recyclers. That's the second biggest principle that we are not doing. And the third is going to have to be that what cannot be recycled, we need to redesign it so that it can be recycled, which means looking at recycling as the absolute gold standard. You cannot have dry waste which needs to be incinerated, which needs to be dumped. So you need to find a way in which any product we use has to be recycled once, twice, thrice, and we need to do that in conditions in which the poorest who do the recycling benefit from it and are not subjected to the worst pollution, because recycling is not a clean business either. So the message clearly for us, and I think that's what UNEP has been doing, Atul, and incredible work at UNEP through the Convention on for Plastic, is really to bring the message home that this product called plastic is going to require us to take a view on its management, which is beyond the effort to just let me pick it up and let me think that I can dispose it. Visible cleaning is not going to be the way out of our plastic mess. We are going to have to find a more aggressive, but a much more manageable way that we can move ahead. And I think that's really the challenge that I can see coming out of the global discussions on plastic. I can see that absolutely being the reality in India, where in spite of all the efforts, and government is making huge efforts, we are not able to handle the menace of plastics. So I think getting our EPR right, getting our systems right so that we can manage the waste in a way that it is not waste is going to be absolutely part of the journey ahead. Now, this is where this coalition is going to be critical. Because in many ways, and I think, Atul, we do have a coalition for cities that segregate, a larger coalition. But what Atin and I were discussing, and we would love to hear from you as well, is that the cities around the coast have a particular view of the sea that none of us have. And it is all of you who understand the coast, and you understand the relationship between the land and the sea because you see it happening. I mean, when you see the pollution in the seas, you see the waterways that brings even sewage into the seas. So I think it is important for us to come up with a coalition which is strong, which is able to bring ideas to practice, which is able to influence policy so that we can upscale the idea and the practice so that we can make it across the coast. And we can try and find ways in which our practice on the ground becomes the model for many others to follow. That has to be the way as we move ahead. So again, thank you very much for coming. And thank you, Atul. I know it's been a journey from Delhi. Thank you so much for coming here and spending the time. Your presence here is really critical because I believe that the issue that we are looking at here, the marine pollution issue, is one that is really deeply linked to the larger challenge that we have in the world. The challenge of plastics, but the twin challenges of pollution, of climate change, and of course, the biodiversity, both on the land and in the seas. So thank you very much. And I hope that the next 2 days are going to be very useful for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Atul sir. Thank you, Sunita ji. May I now request both of you to just open the envelope in front of you and release the report. And after that, I'll request our team to kind of distribute the physical copies with all the participants. May I now request my colleague Siddharth to present the overview of this strategy paper. And then before we allow our keynote speakers to leave, I would request them to click a group photo with all of us so that it stays with us, the moment stays with us.
You are done.
नहीं उसकी जरूरत नहीं है, ठीक है। Okay, so thank you so much everyone for being here today. A lot of people are from the first meeting that we had in April last year. So just to give you a bit of context, I'll talk about the coalition for a bit, and then we'll also kind of discuss how we've reached where we are today in terms of the marine litter discussion, and we'll also discuss the objective of what we are or what we've planned to do over the course of the next 2.5 days. So basically, the coalition of coastal cities to combat marine litter, this started last year in April. We had participation from 18 government agencies, 13 civil society organizations, and 5 private entities. This time we have as many as 23 representatives from more government agencies, about 25 civil society organizations, and about 6 private players. So the first meeting for the coalition was more of a, understanding or stock taking of what the situation is and what all do we need to consider before we even start to, pitch for a separate policy on marine litter. So we had some very interesting participants. Yeah. We discussed about, primarily because I'm from the waste management unit at Center for Science and Environment, we came with the understanding that, marine litter is all about mismanagement of solid waste, right? But what we took away from the first meeting was that marine litter is not strictly limited to the issue of solid waste mismanagement. It also stems from fishing communities, lost fishing gear, which may or may not be, in control of the urban local bodies. It also stems from the fact that India receives a lot of tourist footfall across the year. There's the shipping industry which contributes to it. There's also a lot of impacts that happen due to marine litter, primarily on the biodiversity loss part of it and also the economic part of it. So from what we've understood, and it's very important to draw this line. This is how marine litter has been defined as per the UNEP Secretariat for Barcelona Convention. It's any persistent, manufactured or processed solid material, discarded, disposed or abandoned regardless of its size, that enters into the marine and coastal environment. So the line that we want to draw here is between marine pollution and marine litter. Right? So marine litter is primarily any solid material that is entering into the marine ecosystem. Marine pollution, on the other hand, may be effluents like discharge from sewer networks, right? So this meeting will not talk about the pollution, marine pollution part of it, but will primarily be focusing on the marine litter part of it, which deals with the solid material, right? And we also know that about 60%. So this is in fact a number that is specific for India. In other countries like in Europe, where they've done a quantification, they say that the plastics is as high as 80%. right? So last year, the government of India on Amrut Mahotsav basically did a Swachh Sagar Surakshit Sagar campaign, where over a period of 75 days, 75 beaches were cleaned, right? And all the litter that was collected was quantified and characterized. And it was found that between 55 to 60% of the litter that was collected was primarily plastics. So this 60% plastics in marine litter is an India specific number. For other countries, the number may be higher. Now, some takeaways that we had from the first workshop, you can see that the issues that we identified, and primarily because we were focusing on waste management, most of the issues that we identified were around the waste management agenda. So we all agreed that it's a transboundary issue. We all agreed that there's no baseline as such in our country, right? A lot of waste is handled by the informal sector. So necessarily they may not enter into government records, both in terms of collection, processing, and recycling. There's data insufficiency in terms of, you know, characterization, quantification, how much is actually entering and what is entering into. So what we did in the last example that I was giving you about 60% being plastics is mostly what was recovered from beaches, right? But if you go upstream, we also have riverine cities where a lot of waste is mismanaged. A lot of solid waste enters into sewer networks and drains, right? And that is something that we are saying is not characterized and quantified. And there is a need to quantify and characterize how much of the waste that is generated by the city is leaking into such water bodies, which eventually make their way into, you know, rivers and seas and oceans. We all know and we all agree that, you know, there's a dearth of segregation at source. A lot of cities are trying to take steps, but we are far away from where we would want to be. There's issue with collection of waste. Transportation of waste is a problem because it's also costly. It comes at a cost, right? And then there's lack of processing facilities. There are a lot of areas where even though waste is collected, it's simply, you know, dumped at a landfill site or a dump site where it lies, and then maybe 10-15 years later we then release a tender to then clean up all the legacy waste, right? So these were the issues that were identified primarily around the waste management issue. And then there were some actions that were happening again around the waste management thing. So you can see that the issue side is much more populated as compared to the actions, right? And even the strategy paper that we've prepared now is focusing on actions. What should be the actionable points which government agencies can take those actions or give those directions? So there are some local pilots happening in places like Haridwar, in places like Mumbai, where both of which are riverine cities, and Mumbai is also a coastal city. Lots of beach cleanups, but then we also know that you know, in my experience, I've personally interacted with Afroz Shah. I am from Mumbai, so I have joined hands with him while he was not at the Warsaw beach, but at the Danapani beach, which is in a different suburban area. So one thing that we identified is all the litter from the beaches is collected, but then you can't really send it anywhere. It is not recyclable. It is so contaminated. Eventually, it ends in the, you know, the dump site. The Mulund dump site or the Devnar dump site. Devnar is closed, but the Kanjurmarg dump site is also somewhere that it goes. So essentially, beach cleanup may not really be the solution to marine litter. It definitely contributes to reduction of marine litter, but it's not solving the problem at source, right? Then we also have some data portals that are coming up in the country. We have a data portal for EPR. It's a fairly new portal that is being developed. Lots of action happening there, but we also kind of need to. We are in fact working on analyzing the data on the portal right now, and making some sense out of it. And then there's a portal developed by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs around the number of MRFs we have, how much waste they receive, and also where do they end up. Then we have some studies to estimate the leakages mostly into drains. In fact, CSC is also planning one such study. We are on the stage of finalizing the methodology for this study. And then there is some research around quantification, but in piecemeals, in bits and pieces here and there. So we do not really have a baseline for the entire country, or let's say for a riverine city, we do not have a thumb rule or a standard where we can say that, okay, this amount of waste might be leaking into the water bodies. So our learnings from the first meeting, when we went back, me, Atin, our team, we had discussions over a period of 3 to 4 months. And then we said, let us try to develop a strategy, right? Because this issue is not really a new issue, right? We've been talking about marine litter since 2016, right? 2017, someone told that they've been hearing that there is going to be a marine litter policy since 2017. And we are in 2024. So already 7 years, something that we've lost. In fact, in the G20 meeting that happened last year, people were informed that India is working on a marine litter policy. But there's nothing really out in the open where, people like you and me can contribute. So Atin suggested that why not, bring people from across the country who are working on such issues, get some actionable points, and get this message delivered to the ministry, right? The Ministry of Earth Sciences and the Ministry of Environment, Forest, Climate Change are the two key ministries when it comes to the issue of marine litter, right? So what our understanding was during the first meeting is that marine litter is just a waste mismanagement issue. We came up with these other pointers, right? So waste mismanagement still does contribute, a larger share to the marine litter, but we can't really neglect fishing communities when we are talking marine litter, right? Because about 15 to 20% of this marine litter does come from non-land-based sources, right? So there are issues like abandoned, lost, or even discarded fishing gear, which the fishing community uses. We have with us on board people. There's Olencio sitting right there. We have Jones, who will join us from Tamil Nadu. Both these people are working with the fishermen on the ground, and we will be listening from them what the issues of fishermen are. Why do they discard fishing gears, right? There's a lot of things that need to be discussed. And then there's tourism sector. Like I told you, we are from the waste management unit. So tourism is something that we do not really understand at a full depth. So we also have people who are experts in this issue, and we are also going to listen from them. Industries, interestingly, this is something that we don't really talk about, right? But let me give you one instance. In fact, both these pointers, industries and shipping sector, there was a news last year sometime in July where when they said that plastic pellets were found on the beaches in Maharashtra, primarily Mumbai and Ratnagiri, right? And then a lot of investigation happened. And then what we found was that probably a container or a part of the shipment had fallen off the ship while it was being traded from one part of the world to the other part of the world. And then this resulted in this spillage. And plastic pellets are less than 5 millimeters in size, which means essentially the plastic pollution that's happening is microplastic pollution. And it's absolutely very difficult to kind of clean up microplastics. You can collect up bigger pieces, that's not really a very big problem. But microplastic is an issue. right? So a lot of these industries, both medium, small, and larger industries, manufacture plastic pellets, and a lot of it is lost. In fact, even recycling facilities which are on the coastal in the coastal states, and if there are events like floods, even plastic pellets from recycling facilities get lost and they enter into these systems. So these are, and this is not an exhaustive list, right? We are here to hear from you how we can add to this list. Is there anything else that should feature in the sources part of the marine litter thing? This is a schematic that we tried to kind of develop, which talks about both the sources as well as the impacts of marine litter. So we can, so everything that I mentioned in my earlier slide, you can see tourists, right? There is some amount of litter that happens on tourist places, beaches to be precise. It basically enters into the water bodies. There's the shipping sector. Maybe a container is lost, or maybe a part of the shipping container is lost, right? And that may result in microplastic and nanoplastic issues. There's residential societies. There's industries along the coast, which also contribute to this issue. A lot of our dump sites, which are yet to be remediated, are along a major drain or a creek or even a river sometimes. In fact, me and Atin were just spending some time on Google Earth the other day, and we saw that the oldest dump site in the country, the Devnar dump site, is right along the Thane Creek, right? And Devnar has very limited access to people like you and me. Even for informal sector, there's limited access now. Earlier, that was not the case. But a lot of waste, accumulated waste, legacy waste from such sites leaks into the ocean, either due to natural factors or due to human factors, right? And every monsoon, you will have this picture where Marine Drive is flooded with waste. So basically, if you look at the map, the Thane Creek it goes around and connects to the Arabian Sea at the Marine Drive. And that's basically, I'm sure a lot of it would be contributed by waste that is leaking out from Devnar dump site. Ghazipur and Bhalsawa dump sites in Delhi are right along major drains. There's the Najafgarh Nala that runs right across the Bhalsawa dump site, right? So these are also sources which kind of need to be looked at. And in the strategy paper, we've also kind of proposed that maybe we can prioritize remediation of such dump sites over dump sites that are maybe in landlocked cities away from river bodies. And then if you come to the fishing sector, we can see that there are abandoned or discarded fishing gear, right? So when we say abandoned, let's say a group of fishermen go out for fishing and then they've laid down the nets, but then the weather conditions get bad. So they don't really have the time to, collect the net and run. They just go away, leaving the net, right? Sometimes the nets get caught on the seabed or some other factors. Sometimes they get destroyed and they have to be discarded. A lot of bioaccumulation happens. So before we go to the bioaccumulation part, if you look at these larger pieces of plastic due to environmental factors, disintegrate into smaller pieces, microplastics, nanoplastics, right? And then because the biodiversity pretty much has to live with it, there's bioaccumulation that happens, right? And that basically transfers to other species. Like you see birds who feed on these fishes also have some kind of bioaccumulation, and obviously it then enters into the larger food web, right? So these are kind of the sources and the impacts of that we've been able to identify over the course of the next 2.5 days. We are seeking inputs from you to kind of populate this even further. So in this strategy paper, we've looked at 6 different strategic directions, right? This is basically first is to recognize the issue of marine litter. Right now, while we do acknowledge that there is this issue, but none of our policies, either in waste management or the fishing sector or the tourism sector, they don't really define this terminology of marine litter, right? So that is where and why we are saying we have to recognize this issue by first defining it. The single-use plastic agenda became, such a huge thing because only in 2021 we for the very first time defined what do we mean by single-use plastics. Although like ma'am said, it's not perfect, but at least we have something. The second is definitely to enhance public awareness, business attitude. So again, IEC, BCC activities. How can we reduce the amount that is entering into water bodies and also at the same time support removal of what has already entered into such ecosystems? How can we increase monitoring? So there are regulators in the room. We are really looking forward to listening from you how we can monitor these issues, come up with baselines, come up with standardized methodologies to look at this issue, and then also strengthen the stakeholder coordination, something that we are trying to do through the coalition, right? Listen from everyone, from every sector, right? Government, private, civil societies, and then take the discussion ahead, acknowledging all the pointers that we've received. So the format for the strategy paper that has been given to you, there are 5 different panels that we are going to have, right? So we'll be discussing fishing community, fishing gears. We'll be discussing waste mismanagement. We'll be discussing microplastics, nanoplastics, tourism, and biodiversity loss, right? So basically, all of this, the whole idea is to first understand the need, right? Or understand the that we have, right? Once we've defined what the challenge is, we also need actions, right? Just identifying the challenge is one part of what we are going to do here. We also need solutions, right? How do we overcome the challenge that we've identified? And who are the relevant actors who have to be involved to achieve that actionable point? And in the document that you've been given, we've done that for policy and governance issue. We've done that for mismanagement of solid waste. We've done that for tourism and fishing gear and fishing community, right? So like I said right at the start, this list is not exhaustive, and over the course of the next 2.5 days, we are going to work on the challenges. We've listed some down, right? And as the panel discussion ends, every panel discussion ends, we are going to put this up, review what we discussed in the panel discussion, go back to the strategy paper, and then populate the challenges and the actionable points that we are going to basically. And then after this meeting, definitely we basically will go back, work on the document, share it with you before we kind of go back and send this document to the ministry. So that's pretty much the format for what we are going to do over the course of the next 2.5 days. So there'll be a presentation for context. There'll be a panel discussion, and after the panel discussion, everyone in the room. So it's not just limited to the panel. Everyone in the room can come up with, this is a challenge that I've identified, or this is an actionable point that we can consider, and these are the agencies that basically we have to look at to achieve this actionable point. So that's it from my side. And on an ending note, I think thank you so much. And like Sunita ji said in the first Coalition of Coastal meeting. I'm so glad that we did not meet, greet, and leave, but we met, greeted each other, and we stayed connected. And we are really looking forward to conducting more such events. This is not the last event, I promise you. There have to be more such events where we take this issue forward. So over to you, Atin. And
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. While the keynote speakers are here, we all are here. So if there is any question for the speakers, we can take. But before they are allowed to leave, we would like them to join all the participants for a group photograph. Yeah. So for questions, anyone? Yeah. Can you keep mic, please, Aman? Just turn it on. Yeah.
One of the things while I work in different islands.
Could you please introduce yourself before you ask the question? Yeah.
Okay, my name is Dr. Sanjay K. Gupta, and I'm working in this sector for the last 2 decades. One of the challenges with the marine litter is that it's not just what is generated within the country or within the city, it is also cross-boundary, across the countries, across the continents. How does one tackle such problems? Or what is what is your assessment that how much of other waste? To give you an example, I was recently in Guimaras last week. Most of the waste that came to that island was from Malaysia. It was not Filipino marine. And when we did the quantification, we saw the different brands originated in Malaysia, originated even in Singapore. How does that, like one of the sources that Siddharth was talking about, could that be included also as a source of marine litter when you do the quantification that what comes from elsewhere?
yeah.
There was a study that came out in 2019 where Indian representation in marine litter was less than 2%. We analyzed about 1.6 tons of plastics and we got it from about 5-6 different islands. And more than 70%, we're still crunching the numbers, but more than 70% is foreign-based trash. Now, tourism is a little bit segment. Local population is still very low. Andamans makes up 25% of India's coastline because it's over 800 islands. So how do you think something like this can be incorporated? Because like here, this study, this paper, working paper says that classification of marine litter based on origin reveals that 20% can be attributed to ships, installations, while the remaining 80% stems from land-based sources. Because the solutions for transboundary litter, I mean, we can't find them here.
Yes, no, it's a very valid point that has been raised, though I would wonder a little bit on that 70% part coming from foreign lands. But certainly it's a huge problem, meaning apart from islands which you're talking about, meaning there are already 7 huge plastic islands in the oceans. I'm forgetting there's a technical word for it, but huh? Yeah.
Gyres.
So, meaning these are plastic islands which are huge in 7 different parts of all the oceans we have. And it's basically a collection of plastics coming from various land-based sources in various countries. And how does one tackle that is certainly a very big issue. And also, as a transboundary event, it is certainly an area where some kind of a understanding needs to take place between the countries. So I think this is an issue that's also being debated quite a lot in the INC negotiations that Sunita ji was talking about. And this certainly is an important area of discussion. And we are hoping that in that international treaty, this issue would be addressed and there could be some understanding how to address it. Right now, I don't see any way this can work out mutually between countries, and I don't think any of the, let's say, for example, the South Asian countries, I don't see any agreement or understanding of addressing this in a collaborative manner. But this certainly is a big issue, meaning why only plastic? Even air pollution is an issue which is so much transboundary. And Sunita ji was raising that problem when she was talking about cities. One needs to go to the airshed regions for addressing these problems. But yes, this is a very, very important area of work that's being discussed at the INC. Sunita, you want to add something?
Just to make the point that I completely support Atul, but I think the issue that we'll, in our country, that as we are beginning to approach the marine litter issue, would be to look at the transboundary as one issue that we need to discuss at the global level. As much as that, we need to look at our domestic issues. So we will need to do both together. And particularly for islands, both Lakshadweep and Andamans, I can see this is a very big problem. I think for most other parts of the coast, I think it'll be much more land-based. But I'm not discounting what you're saying. I'm just seeing it as two levels of work that we'll all need to do. One, handle what's happening domestically, use that also to understand better the need for a global convention. What UNEP is trying to do is to bring a global convention together precisely for these reasons, that each country, even if it tries to do its own homework better, will not be able to solve the problem. Yes.
No, in fact, you're right. I was trying to just address the transboundary aspect, and certainly, meaning domestic action is something which is the first action to be taken. There's no doubt. But also, there's another framework, and I don't know. The other framework is the sea coalitions that have taken place. So there's a South China Sea Treaty. There's a Pacific Sea Treaty. Unfortunately, the South Asian, there's no treaty like that. And it's a framework that there are legal agreements, and UNEP is the secretariat for all these sea programs, where the countries, of course, then come together and do discuss some of these issues. For the South Asia seas, the Indian Ocean, the Bay of Bengal, and the Arabian Sea, unfortunately, no agreement has taken place. There have been some efforts. SACEP did try for this. There was a resolution in one of the Bangladesh meetings. But that's another framework where till INC comes in, there is some kind of a legal arrangement where the countries can come together to do this.
It's more a remark than a question. In all your presentation, the economic part was the poor. Why do people pollute that much? Because it's cheaper and easier. So we have to find, we scientists, I'm part of these people who didn't do their job, a way to earn more money by not polluting. And I'll just give you one example. You know, the tanker, they wash their tanks and they throw it at sea, outside territory, outside legal water, easy. And you cannot sue them because it's out of your territory. One company in France just thought about recycling this, and now they are buying this water from them, refilter and generate all of it. So only stupid people now will throw it at sea because it has a value. And we have to find solution to bring value to this. Of course, this does not solve this today problem, but the long vision problem. In Europe, for instance, the recycling of the car, part by part, has to be defined before building a new car. So we have to find this kind of approach where you earn a lot of money, you pay a lot of tax also, by not polluting. I know it's a difficult job. Many people, for instance, we take chemistry or physics people, they think about new process which is fantastic, very exciting from an intellectual point of view, but not very often integrating how much money you can gain by not polluting.
Okay.
No, I just wanted to add, meaning it's an excellent point, and economics really runs runs everything. And I think at another level, you're talking also of ecosystem services, meaning at one level, if we can cost the ecosystem services, what a river provides, what a forest provides, what a wetland provides, and that accounting is something that will automatically bring value to the local community. And
this is not the same guy.
I said it's another level.
This is why we do this.
Okay, any other question? Okay. Okay, first Sumit, then.
Okay, no, just a quick one to both of you. I mean, taking cues from what happened in the air pollution fronts in the last 2 decades. We had a similar issue at hand. At that point of time, we had dearth of data on air pollution. Now we have issues with the data on plastics. And the issue of coordination with different ministries and departments, which are sort of contributing to the issue or may have some stake in the issue to resolve it. So how do you see, moving it forward in this space where we have earth sciences who are supposed to, do a lot of data crunching and data monitoring. We have ministries of, say, tourism and shipping and, industries and Mahua who are sort of supposed to, deal with their own contributions towards this issue. How do you see this happening in this state? We have this National Clean Air Program, which sort of brought together all these ministries in the air pollution space. And do you see similar thing happening here? Or, I mean, what's your take on this?
I think this was a UNEP challenge which is highlighting, and I am also grappling with this, looking for an answer.
Let me try and answer it. So I think the biggest issue is to have an agenda to move ahead, okay? To know what you want to do. And some of those actions are going to be tough and we need to do them. I'm not so worried about the coordination part. I'll be clear. If I look at air pollution, the actions we got on air pollution were in spite of the fact that there was no coordination, okay? I mean, if you got the standards for BS4, or you got standards for BS6, or you got the ban on trucks coming into Delhi, or you got the CNG into Delhi, or you got the ban on coal use in Delhi, or the shutdown or the Badarpur power plant, it didn't require, coordination is part of the challenge, but I think more important is the fact that there is a direction to act. And I feel air pollution is even more complicated because of the air shed and the fact that, honestly, air pollution is difficult because nobody wants to take action. I'll be very blunt with it. Because now the action you're going to take is going to hit somebody. And everybody wants to have clean air at no cost. So problem with air pollution is a lack of taking tough. I mean, the only thing you can do with air pollution now, if you really want to reduce it, is to move out of coal and move to gas. And the gas prices are so expensive, nobody is going to move. Unless you did what the Supreme Court did in the Taj trapezium, which is what they said was that the gas would be cheaper and made available because it was the right to, it was because of Taj. Or in Delhi, when CNG came in, it was said that you need to keep CNG price much lower so that you can replace it with diesel. So let's forget the air pollution. I feel that the issue of waste management requires no coordination because it is solely in the hands of cities. And I think that's what gives me a huge amount of a sense that you're going to be able to move much faster here. And I'm already seeing that because this is citizens and cities. More than even anything else that we can see, this is an area where citizens come into. And if, for instance, Tiruvananthapuram or many other cities, they had to clean up because otherwise citizens would be drowned in garbage. So you had to clean up. So in the case of marine litter, if we keep the cities at the core of action, and if you keep the municipalities and the citizens working with municipalities at the core. I mean, Atul was just telling me this remarkable story that he and his wife have done in Noida, where you have got the entire association together and you have been able to reduce the amount of waste that goes to a landfill site. We see the same thing happening in residential area in Gurgaon, RWAs, colony after colony. So I think in the case of waste, you can avoid India's biggest problem of coordination, lack of governmental talking to each other, departments. I think it's going to be much easier. And that's my request also to Atin and Siddharth, that keep this agenda in a way that it is manageable, it is straightforward, and you can take action. If it's shipping, you can talk to the shipping ministry. If it is about fishermen, then we know that there are communities that work with them. The question is going to be the incentives. The question is going to be, how do you deal with the fishing waste? Because the one thing that I look forward to hearing is, because it defies my logic. My logic is that the poor never waste. So why would a fisherman waste a fishing net? I haven't understood that still, because I can tell you that the fishing net is difficult to make unless this is now about the new variety of fishing nets that have come in. It is plastic. It is not possible to recycle, not possible to reuse. And so it's an end of use life. So then, but I think that's an issue again to look at what can be done further. But in my view, Sumit, don't compare the two issues. Air pollution, airshed issue involves a lot of very tough decisions now, which need to be taken at the macro level. You cannot deal with air pollution in our cities unless you fix the issue of combustion and the quality of combustion. Everything else is visible. Cleaning, it's not going to work. In the area of marine litter and waste management, I think you have a huge opportunity to do things differently, where it's not the ministry, it's not the policy, it's the citizen and the municipality. It's the community. I think if we can keep that in mind and keep addressing what can be done better there, I think we have an agenda that is workable. I hope that answers your question, Sumit.
Yeah, I think I fully agree to the downstream side of things. But what I feel is, unless you stop things at the downstream or control, bringing the industry into the picture, talking about alternatives, moving them to reuse kind of packaging. So, that angle also should plug the tap.
It'll have to. I don't think you have a choice, because beyond a point, if you deal with the plastic issue, unless you deal with there is going to be materials that you won't be able to recycle. Okay? Exactly. So you will have to find answers to them. And
control consumption rather than production for a variety of reasons. It's difficult to address industry rather than put pressure on them. And I think that's where this whole thing of stopping the production side, which you rightly said, plastics, that we can continue to use plastics, but if we don't start producing it, the problem will keep on increasing.
Yeah. No, we will have to. I don't think you have an option. I mean, I am very clear about this. I'm constantly being told that there have been solutions found to multi-layered plastic. I'm absolutely sure you haven't found them. You will have to ban them. And you will have to replace them with something which is easier to recycle. Okay. We came close to this, Atul, in 2016, in the first draft, in the draft that, not the draft, but in the plastic note rules, it said there would be a ban on multi-layered plastic and particularly pouches, okay? But it was replaced, it was rolled back. I think it's time we talked about, I mean, we have to be able to say it as it is. And to say it as it is, one of the things will be to understand, and that's one of the things, Atul, I like what Siddharth was saying, and maybe UNEP, we, and maybe as a coalition, if we were to look at the waste that is there and do a classification of the waste, and I'm just looking at the group and the community here, suppose we did this as something that different people could do using one methodology, do across the country in different beaches, different rivers, different landfills, and understand what is the waste that is finally making it as waste. It may strengthen our argument again to argue that certain products will have to be banned because they are not getting recycled. They're not getting reused. And one factory in Noida, even if it does something with multi-layered plastic, is not going to solve the multi-layered plastic challenge in the country. It's a huge issue. So I think maybe we need to find, we'll have to keep being at it, Atul, because as you and I know, this is not a challenge that we solve overnight.
No, in fact, under the countermeasures project about which I talked about in my statement, we did a couple of these studies in a few hotspot areas in Gangetic Plain, and we developed a methodology also. So as you're rightly saying, through this coalition, if that methodology could be adopted by all the cities who are here, that could be a great thing. We did share that methodology with all the state governments, but then, with limited resources, one can't follow up with everyone. But I think a coalition like this is an ideal platform for using that methodology for all the cities.
Maybe that could be something, because we
do need those methodologies. But there is none otherwise. We need something to start with.
No, then we have that, and we spent a couple of years on developing that in Haridwar and in in Allahabad and Patna. So,
so let's look at that methodology. Let's see if we can if it's simple enough that we can use this across the country to, I mean, your point is absolutely valid. It's not, I mean, when you're not going to be able to solve the plastic problem by just talking about recycling.
yeah.
So let's be very clear about
And
that.
this multi-layered is certainly such a huge problem. Meaning, whenever I drive down, like today, this morning I was driving down, the number of shops at dhabas and vendors you see on any road, any highway, any city, any street, selling those multi-layered pouches, meaning the layers and layers of that hanging. So it's just one small Alwar town, you will see thousands and lakhs of those, and you can imagine pan-India.
Yeah.
So it's such a big industry, and I doubt if the manufacturers are even looking at an alternative.
At one time they were, when there was the notification that had come out, and there was, I mean, at the end of the day, any one of these things also pushes for alternatives to come in. But if we take a middle route and we say, I mean, now the government's approaches, let's do EPR. Nothing wrong with it, but then let's do serious EPR. Okay, let's have clear quantification, who's supposed to pick up how much have they picked up, where has that picked up waste gone? Has it been incinerated? In which case, what are we really trying to do? So I think the plastic issue, in my view, and I'm glad we have this discussion now, I think we are going to have to restart the agenda for control of plastics in India. It's one of those issues on which we have tried, we've done our best, but we are still drowned in plastic. The cities that are doing, and Atul, I'm sure you've seen them, but there is amazing work happening at the city level, where cities are taking on the challenge of segregating, of doing dry waste, of having material recovery centers, involving the informal sector in the waste management. But all that still means that you have huge amount of waste
Yeah.
which you don't know what to do.
So I think the best solution for addressing this whole problem is reducing the waste. Meaning that's otherwise you're just grappling with whatever is coming in and you're trying to manage that. And reducing the waste is certainly the biggest challenge. Meaning industry is involved in that, consumers are involved in that, and of course the governments. And I don't know how many industries at this stage want to reduce producing whatever they're producing.
Unless
Yeah.
there's a-
In fact, last year we were a part of
Yes.
that interministerial committee, and we had the country's biggest MRF who was sharing what they do with us. And they were saying that they were not able to mechanically recycle more than 12% of what they receive.
Yeah.
And about 80-85% was going for incineration.
So and multi-layered plastic has a problem, meaning you can't do much as an alternative for to what to make. So you keep on seeing on WhatsApp or social media, someone is making a bag out of it, but I think that's not a solution. So we organize the circular design challenge on textile side. We did the 5th edition recently, along with the rice as part of the Lakme Fashion Week. And it was the very first time in 6 years I saw one youngster showing as one of the circular design products he brought out was frames of glasses from multi-layered without incinerating. He's patenting that technology, not meaning it's a very small kind of a thing. But there are efforts happening. But then if you're looking at scaling it up at an all India level in terms of the millions we see in Alwar town, it's a big journey ahead.
No, I think we are going to need, I mean, there is another route, which is something CSE is also working on. I mean, essentially, incineration is the way a lot of these plastics will have to go. But then the question is the quality of the incinerated material and also the incineration.
Yes.
So there we are working on RDF and trying to, our lab, which I hope you will visit also, has been testing for you now the fractions that are coming out of different landfills. And we are trying to understand the calorific value of the different fractions coming out of the landfills, particularly after remediation. And the question there is now, can you have a better standard for refuse derived material, RDF fuel? So that if you were to produce it as good fuel, you could even start charging the cement industries for getting it. But right now, it is just basically, if you look at the what is sold as RDF, or not sold, given away with transport costs that the city pays for to a cement company, it's basically dirt, it's dust with very little calorific value. So I think we are going to have to do a fair amount of work to understand the waste that we have as waste today. And we will have to take some tougher steps than we have taken till now when it comes to dealing with the issue of dry waste. But simultaneously, in my view, and that's why this coalition makes a lot of sense, is if we can show what can be done on the ground and what is possible, then I think you get all the parts of the puzzle coming together, which is that you keep doing new research, you keep pushing for tougher action, but you also work on the ground so that that level of ground level influences also both the desire to take tougher action and new research.
I was, that's a very good thought, Sunita ji. And I was just thinking, Mini, you have representatives from so many cities here. And I also saw as part of your strategy document that Siddharth just told us about, that there are local pilots that you're talking about. And you're going to have probably this coalition next year again.
Yes.
So over this 1 year, can we think of each of the city representative who's here takes up one challenge of, let's say, a multi-layered plastic or a single-use plastic or any other waste product in the plastic sector, and try to, within a few wards or localities or the city itself, try to find a good business model for addressing that particular sector of plastic waste and implement it on the ground, just as coming up with a business model that can be replicated.
Yeah, we can do that, but we can also do this as a challenge that all of us, I mean, we can look at this in different parts of India, get information and put it together as a handbook, which also helps others to understand what is possible so that they can then use it. Because but with the clear understanding, Atul, that we are not going to be able to deal with plastic waste without some measure of restraint that we bring in as well.
That could be one pilot.
That could be one pilot, yes. That's a good idea. No, definitely. I think that's a very good idea. Let's see how we work towards the agenda on this. Good, good. Any other questions, or otherwise we should go? Yes.
Saida,
Yes.
Saida had.
We'll also keep it a little shorter.
The 90s.
Saida didn't get to ask. Please.
Okay.
First Saida.
First Saida.
Saida. Sorry. Sorry.
Sorry, ma'am.
Sorry, ma'am. I knew that, yeah. We have time, don't worry.
So I don't know what extent I'm like having a discussion with you, but I would like to give a little bit enlighten for me on my opinion. So everybody was speaking about transboundary like pellets, like what you have like written in the book also. So basically from ULB, I will not like telling any of the ULB name here. Basically it's from Andhra Pradesh only. So as I'm a ground person, so marine litter it is end वो end होगा. जब नदियों की बात करेंगे, सोर्स सेग्रीगेशन की अब बात करेंगे, तो थोड़े ULBs में क्या होता है, वहाँ पे STP का प्रॉपर सुविधा नहीं होती है. इसके वजह से क्या होता है, वो जो भी पानी आता है ना, चैनल खोलना ही पड़ता है, रिवर्स टूवर्ड्स रिवर्स. नहीं खोलेंगे, वाटर वापस आके पूरा शहर को तहस नहस कर देते हैं. So that is the one reason क्या होता है, प्लास्टिक जितना भी शहर में होता है, which was not managed, which was not collected, it will go into the river and flow to the and to the marine. One issue. Second, जो मैडम ने बोला मेरे दिल की बात ही छीन ली, जो आपने लिखा है कि फिशरी नेट्स वाले, ये जो बेसिक मैं बहुत लोगों से कोऑर्डिनेट करती हूँ, मछली और लोगों से, तो वो लोग नहीं फेंकते. एक्सट्रीम केसेस में होता है कि जैसे बारिश आ जाए, मौसम आ जाए, वो एक्सट्रीम केसेस में ये जो थ्रो करते हैं, ये जो कमर्शियल वाले होते हैं ना, जो कमर्शियली इसका बिजनेस बनाते हैं, इंपोर्ट एक्सपोर्ट का विद इन द रीजन, जहाँ पे कोस्टल नहीं लाइन मिलता है, जो मच्छी ज्यादा मिलती है, तो वो वालों का ये होता है पॉइंट. तो मैं बोलती हूँ 60%, 70% का तो आई डोंट नो. So I'm not going to speak about like transboundary plastic, but I'll be speaking about the ULB. If we have that route mapping where where the sources are there, where the plastic is getting into the river, from where it is traveling, so that could be little bit 10 to 20% effort पहले कर लेंगे. 50-60 का transboundary का, that is secondary. ये तो हमारे हाथ में है ना, पर ULB level. This is my point of view.
Very excellent. जब आप इसको कह रहे हैं कि आप पीछे नहीं कर सकते हैं, you let it go into the sea or the river, आपके यहाँ कोई सिस्टम है कि वहाँ पे कोई sea kind of a thing?
Yes, sir. I am not speaking about only my ULB. I am speaking about engine.
नहीं, आपने मैं ULB की बात कर रहा हूँ. तो बड़ी
We have STP also.
टेक्नोलॉजीज आ गई कि जो pathways पानी के अंदर जा रहे हैं, रिवर के अंदर, वहाँ पे at the exit there is a collection kind of a thing for plastic waste.
Generally, we do have.
जो छलनी लगा देते हैं हम.
Yes, sir. That's what
Sir,
we have.
I will tell you. क्या होता है, हमने इतना बड़ा एक रिवर था, गोदावरी रिवर, which is one of the famous river. आपने जैसे आप छलनी बोले हो ना, वैसे बड़ा एकदम लोहे का बनाया हुआ है, और पानी का फोर्स इतना होता है, वो ना अंग्रेजों के जमाने में बनाया गया है, और इतना बजट भी लगता है. जो भी पानी का ट्रीटमेंट किए हैं,
टुवर्ड्स एसटीपी डाइवर्ट किए हैं लॉन्ग इन यूएलबी ये होता है बहुत फ्लो होता है और वो जो पानी का फोर्स आएगा आप जितने भी मेशर्स लगा लो सॉक्स लगा लो कुछ भी लगा लो वो लेके यूं ही चल जाएगा वाटर लेवल
Along with this channel that she is speaking about, plant capacity is only 30 ml, whereas you see almost 100 ml of water flowing in this channel, and you find everything in this, including your sofa sets. So all the huge material you'll find in this.
और अलग से every year flood आता है
And this is directly linked with the Godavari River, which all this is flowing into the Godavari River. Along with it.
Capacity is 30 million liter day, and
Yes, that's it.
you are receiving almost
100 ml. Now they are trying to enhance this to 85 mld, but still it falls down to the capacity.
And this is for which city?
She's talking about Rajamahendravaram. Rajahmundry.
Okay. But Rajahmundry has done some very good work also.
Yeah.
I heard a lot of very good news from Rajahmundry in terms of compost plants.
Saida came for a training.
Yes.
Then she went back and
I just got the report of, so we have just sent some scientists to Rajahmundry to collect compost.
Yes, yes.
And he's speak to Arvind, he's got the report done also.
Yes.
So we'll share.
And I thank CSC team, especially Atinji or Sen Gupta ji, because after their BWG training, we have really implemented very good in practical implementation वहाँ पे किया है. So that.
No, I keep listening, and I go, Rajahmundry is one city I want to come to.
Please, ma'am, please, you will come.
Okay, madam, sorry, we interrupted you.
It wasn't a question so much as a thought which came to me while you were giving your talk about. Okay, it's this built-in obsolescence, with the industry. Like you don't want to throw things away, but you're forced to do it, and especially with electronics. And it's that electronics everything is in electronics now, even the cars. So it's, how does one address this business model?
I think, Atul, this is something you have spent a lot of time looking at. So this whole issue about obsolescence, that how do you incentivize or disincentivize industry so that this is not built in?
Yeah, meaning the normal Western practice is to send it to another country. And that has been the business model for many, many decades, and it's still continuing. But meaning, I do not know. In fact, we are moving away from it in the sense that we make our telephones and cars obsolete, and refrigerators and air conditioners obsolete in 2 years and 3 years time. And that's the whole business model of keeping the economy going, I suppose. So unless we start looking at, meaning if iPhone 15, 16 doesn't come next year, I think all of us will be very impatient. That
very bad. You get a new model being launched almost in a couple of weeks or.
And why equipment, even clothes? So I think recycling or circular economy could be possible approaches, but those are really very minimal kind of approaches that can be done at a local level. If you're looking at pan-India level or pan-global level, I don't think there can be a treaty with the industry that you will not make a new iPhone for the next 10 years. The technology is developing so fast. Now, today, I think Samsung has released a AI AI telephone.
It's 24.
Yeah.
But it's also, it's not just about the hardware obsolescence, but also software obsolescence.
I
Because
saw some binoculars for 4,600 euros where it's AI inspired and you can see a bird and identify the bird. You don't need even an internet. So, technology is driving so much of new consumerism that it's very difficult.
Dr. I have a question for you. Like, was your observation based on something that you observed in nursery? Like, because whatever little data we have come across by writing this paper, we haven't got too many evidence of mismanage electronic or electrical waste in the streams that basically have been characterized even during this year of the
And no, my observation is from my own life.
Okay.
And the other observation was from the Minicoy waste dump.
Right.
Because there was so much computers.
Yeah.
There were so many electronic waste.
Even
which-
in the waste dump.
Yeah, because they don't know what to do with it. The
Wow.
houses are small. Where do
Wow.
you keep all this muck? So you went and put this in the waste dump. And I happened to be in Minicoy, during the first lockdown. So I was locked down there for 90 days. So while I was on the lockdown, I said, I will not spend money. I will go to that waste dump and see if I can retrieve anything. So all the crockery that I got in my the thing I got from there. And there I was also helping them build a museum. So we got so many artifacts for the museum from that waste dump. There was whole suitcases thrown away over there. We retrieved passports. We retrieved dollars. All this, because some wife had got angry with her husband and thrown all the stuff away. So all ended up in that waste dump.
I mean,
Yeah.
you're almost making me feel that tomorrow, Atul, people are going to write histories
Yeah,
of our cities and civilization. They're going to go to waste dumps and recreate our
Yeah, I
lives.
think so.
Thank God you didn't find husbands there.
Or skeletons of husbands.
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing. So while we were stuck over there for that time, we told people go there and see what you can repair. So many people repaired water pumps, got new bicycles, all from that waste dump.
So I also want to add one thing in this, meaning obsolescence or what, meaning unless, and I'm not skeptical about industry, so don't take it that I'm going after the industry, but unless the industry adopts a social approach to their business. I'll give you one example of the e-waste you're talking of, and this is not recent, this is almost 20 years back. All this returning your old equipment back to the manufacturer for efficient and safe recycling or disposal, and you charge $25 more or something. It was a big scam that was going on because all your big computer firms, whichever, you name any of USA, they were collecting all laptops, all mobile phones, everything. And it was being sent off to China, meaning there were Chinese rich paddy field villages. Hundreds of them were converted over a period of 5-10 years into the biggest recycling areas for equipment, e-waste that was coming there. It was all being done there and no one knew about it. I, as a consumer, thought I've given my laptop to Samsung and they're doing, and I've got my $25 back or given $25 and they're doing something well. Till a NGO actually did some investigative journalism and put GPS on these trackers on this equipment, and this story came. So meaning we expect industry to be responsible, but they are not looking at it from a social perspective, and that needs to be really a lens that they used to wear.
This is where I feel industry is not going to do it till there's deterrence, till there is some social scrutiny, since there is some, I mean, we did a similar investigation like this. We actually also looked at the e-waste issue in India. This is almost 15 years ago when it had just started. And the same thing we found was that these companies were supposedly sending them to a big recycler, but they were not. The big recycler was sending it off to Mayapuri and everywhere else where it was much cheaper, and there was no labor standards, no environmental standards, and you could essentially do recycling at no cost. I think deterrence is going to be critical. Our regulations and deterrence are going to be part of the way we move ahead. I mean, I don't know, Atul, if you saw, and I don't know how many of you saw we just did an investigation and expose into the voluntary carbon market in India. It's a bit of taking a side view, but it's the same story. That here is a voluntary carbon market, something that could work very well, exactly as the same thing you've said. But we showed that it was not good for the planet, not good for people. It was a scam. It was a fraud. And continues to be so because there are no rules for it. And there is no deterrence. Nobody holds them to account. So I think in some senses, in everything that we are talking about, and I think it's coming back again and again, and we have a last question and then we'll wrap up, is we will need this agenda to have some amount of an ability to push also to get some tough decisions taken, because otherwise it will not. Atin, I know you're running out of time. I can see you.
Sir,
Yes.
I have a question. I am from Kerala State Pollution Control Board. As state of Kerala, we don't have any cement kilns. We are sending the waste plastic which are not recyclable to Tamil Nadu or Karnataka. Most of the cement kilns are far away because around 300, 400 kilometers to travel for refuse for sending to incineration. Only one cement kiln in Kerala that is don't have any facility for incineration. But I am asking one question. As of now, the directive is to incinerate in cement kilns only. If there any possibility or any changes done to incinerate the waste derived fuel in industry, like other petroleum refineries or fertilizer industries, to produce heat or steam. At present, there is no directives for that. The issue is it is having less calorific value. If there any strict directive for keep changing to fuel, the fuel be incinerated in boilers, like in fertilizer industry or any other industry, like petroleum refinery, is it possible? Is it any further direction or any further statutes has to be made for that? Because it is a real problem in Kerala because of the distance from the source of the waste to the point of incineration.
I'm not a science student, so but I'll just I've only heard of co-processing in the cement industry as one possible source, and 300-400 kilometers you're talking of is a very small distance. I know of waste being moved from East India to South India for just cement industry and whatever transport costs are there. Of course, there's a carbon footprint of that also, but yeah,
yes,
yeah, that's not a good.
Sir, it is being
Yeah.
being practiced. But instead of incinerating in cement kiln, is there any possibility to incinerate in industry also?
So
That I am
on the
asking.
petroleum side, I'm not.
I'm not sure, Atul, that's really where we need to understand what this co-processing in cement also means. Right now, we are just sending waste and cement can burn anything. Cement, when we talk to the cement industry, they say, this is not good fuel for us. We are just burning it because we're getting it free. Okay, so my understanding is that we are going to need more than what we have done right now, which is co-processing in cement is fine, but we'll need to extend how can this dry waste be used further, which is where the argument that we have, CSC is working on looking at what would it take to make RDF out of dry waste. Forget cement, forget anything. You want good calorific value waste, fuel, which can then go to any industry. It can go to a boiler. It can go anywhere, but it should not add to pollution. So I think the question would be to understand how would you take this dry waste? What kind of fuel could you make out of it? In what kind of industries could you use this fuel so that you don't add to pollution? Because we neither want toxic pollution nor particulates from the dry waste. So that is an area of work that I believe
That's a
needs
lot
to
of
be done.
a lot of work is going on. There's a whole area of biochemistry which is working on these kind of fuels.
That's right.
There is a very big expert in Bangalore who's worked quite a lot in Southeast Asia, has just moved back to India. Professor Mukund Rao, I can connect you. He's done some amazing work in this.
That'll be good because I think one of the meetings we do want to do soon is to look at the RDF issue.
Sir, as a part of the CSC team also, I visited Sweden that's 2016 or 17. I have seen a waste to energy plant is there, Vattenfall. They are making it for producing hot water, pressurized hot water for the heating system in the township. But as the waste is not at all having the calorific value, they mix peat for increasing the calorific value. That I am asking, is there any possibility like this in our state
A lot
also?
of work is happening on that, but still.
This is exactly what we
Yeah.
need to work on. You're
Yes, yes, ma'am.
absolutely right,
Yes.
because we're going to have to look at how we can reuse that waste and not make it waste.
Yeah.
And that will require some work, but I can see someone at the back wanting to intervene on this.
So before the civil plant was actually decided, there was a committee that was organized. Which had representatives from steel factory refinery, cement and refinery, and they did a study. And there were some issues with the other guys, and that's why.
No, but that's what, so the point is.
And they did the SCR and RDO report, and the but we need to relook, like you're saying, what kind of fuel and then, because it's not like sending it so far away.
No, it isn't, and it's really creating huge transport costs for municipalities.
Study was done.
Okay, so we should, I think this is
Yeah.
all good knowledge. We
Yes,
should-
yes, of
We
course.
should put it together, but you
Yeah.
had some last point?
Can we just part that agenda for now, because we already have overshot, and one session delayed means it will have a chain reaction on the rest of the program. So sorry, I mean, definitely see, waste to energy will come back anyway, right? It's pretty much part of the agenda. So right now, what I can tell you, like, if anyone in the audience, I mean the participants, they can share anything, any working model of waste to energy. Because let me just tell you very briefly that waste to energy plant are seen to be an avenue where you can get rid of the waste. Right? It has never been a sustainable solution. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Right. It's about the cost, because you still need that waste at the vicinity of your plant. Now, who is bearing the cost of collection and transportation as the cities?
Why send it so far? Why not burn it here? I think the waste to energy plant model has been very bad in India. There is nothing wrong with the idea of waste to energy, but the way we have done it is neither giving you good fuel, it is neither giving you good electricity. So I think it's an issue which you should come back to.
Yeah. So in the waste section, we'll discuss it. Yeah. And it has a very strong connect with the separation of waste or segregation of waste at source. That's pretty fundamental. You know, we have been searching for solutions in technologies, and anyway. So so it was a very dynamic session, very vibrant. I mean, lots of comments and lots of thoughts, and big thanks to both our keynote speakers. And it's time for